Okay guys, this is Cruise Roy with the UpAir One. Had a little fast descent yesterday with a return to launch, and so today I figured not much going on, that I'm going to see if I can do a total breakdown on this, tear it down, take a look inside, see if anything's loose. I did work on the lipo trying to get a balance lead, and I got the blinking light of death now. It still will charge, but has no way of shutting off on charge and could explode. So if anybody tries playing with these, that smart board will fail, and when it fails, it doesn't know when to give up charging because it'll just keep charging. I had this battery up a little too high, I had to drain it. Just as an FYI. So I guess the first things we need to do is take props off. From watching other videos, that's what I assume. Let me turn the bird upside down. There's no screws up on the top here. And from what I understand, it's not like the DJI where I can leave the motors alone. I actually got to take all the screws out from the motor, but we'll see. Alright. Plus you have the compass in one leg, you have the FPV in another, and you actually have the antenna for the RX on the other leg, or vice versa, but I'm pretty sure this is the antenna and this is the FPV and this is the compass. If you have the integrated camera or the camera, you can pull the camera off. This one you can't pull the camera off, but you can still pull the gimbal. And if you've crashed without your little zip ties, you'll notice that when it does break free, I kind of like that connector. It's straight in there and it will just disconnect and come right off. So there's the integrated 4K camera. What's funny is it has a capacitor for charge, because I crashed the other day, the camera fell off. It was still actually running for a few seconds before it actually died. Alright, so first thing I will do is take off gimbal. I'll just keep the screws with the coordinating parts. There's the plate, pretty simple. Now I guess the next thing we can take off is TX cover. Now I haven't upgraded this TX. This is just the factory one. There's the small antenna and the plug. So they do a nice job the way they did this. You have to get a small flathead. The red plug will unplug. And the little antenna will need a little persuasion to pop off, but you don't want to break the connector, but it should just pop off just like that. There's the TX. Even this one looks a little different than the last one, my other UpAir. It's like they can't make up their mind yet what they want to do. Alright, so the next thing, this one I bought used. Someone put duct tape on the antennas. So if you don't have tape on yours, probably a good idea, because the hot glue, this wasn't a bad idea, because the hot glue will let go and your components might just fail and fall off. careful with the compass wire here. Now this will be my first time taking one of these apart. Yep, I thought that was a wire. That was just a piece of grass. Piece of grass from the crash. Alright, so I'm going to say landing legs first, or skids, whatever you'd like to call them. Let's start on this side where I only have one antenna to deal with. Somebody else wasn't taking these off, they were leaving them on, but I want to do a total breakdown. Okay, so we have a memory issue here. We have a long screw and a short screw. So I would assume make sure you get them in the right position when you put it back together. Let me find my flathead that I have floating around here. Let's see if I can prop out. This, I think, is the aerial. This is for the RX, and what it seems like they're doing is putting a little small glob of two-faced tape and some glue. This one's never been apart, but it has been used. But I'll tell you what, these landing skids, I just had a crash. It hit the ground, bounced right back up like a rocket, and they didn't break. It's a good thing. Okay, let me put that one there. Now, at least with the video, kind of have an idea. At least if I forget where the screws go. Yep, I'm losing a screw here. Oh, it fell into the bird. Oh, it's my lucky day. Alright, so this here I think is the FPV one. It's like a tube. And again, they just kind of pressure fit it into the skid. And I think the compass, I can either unscrew or just disconnect the cable. I did lose a screw right inside the bird, so watch out for that. If you're just changing your skids, you might end up doing a lot more just to get the screw out. But I will shake it in a minute to see. The Phantom, I know it'll get lodged in there pretty good. Take a nice straight blade and try to take this connector out. Leave the compass where it belongs on its legs. Slowly pull these out. There you go. Little compass. Don't put this near anything magnetic, it'll really screw it up. If it's like the Phantom, but most of them are. Okay. Let me pause the video for a minute and I'll be right back. Okay guys, We took the skids off, put everything aside. What I want to do now is shake. And just as I suspected, just like the Phantom, that screw is lodged in there and gonna stay there. So let's just continue on, and eventually I'll find that screw. Let's take the LEDs off, the LED lenses. I don't know if it holds the rest of the body together. Spin it. Okay, so that's the LED covers. So, from what I've seen in other videos, the motor screws have to be removed. Where the Phantom, you can leave the motor screws because the motor will release, but I guess these hold on to the top layer as well. So while I have it open, if I can do the USB mod, I have a cable. I just got to make sure it's the right one, because some people say it's a USB 2 and then some are a USB mini. I'll wait to flip it. Do 2 at a time. Yeah, I don't like that the motors come free, but that's UpAir's design. Yeah, you can feel the whole cover come loose once the motor is disengaged. Oh yeah, see, the motors just tip right out. I do not like that design. The motors flop right out. Kind of like the Phantom, it holds the motors in place and you can do everything you want to do, and the motors never come out of alignment. Make sure the covers release. Just put a little tension on them. You'll feel the screw come loose. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try to flip this and drop all the screws. But watch out, because the motors are just dangling now. See, I don't like this design. It's tugging on the ESC wires. So when you take this apart, be gentle. Let me see how many screws I have. 4 for each motor. There's 2 motors. And there's 4 motors. Okay, let me slide the screws out of the way. Okay. I don't know if it's... Try to do this again. Somebody said these are just DGI motors, but just from that quick look, it doesn't look that way. I guess we have to pop this antenna through this end hole here. So that's not too hard. That's not too hard, but someone said there's 2 screws right in here where the outlet plug is. I don't even know how you would get at those without pulling the rear cover off here. So let me see if I can take some of the body away. I'm going to push the gimbal wires in. I'm having something holding on to me here. I feel something. Let me flip it over. And that's what's bad. The motors are attached to this upper half, and then the ESCs attached to the lower half. So what I have right now is something is hooked up on the body. So I'm just going to slowly pop, and I guess it is those 2 screws in there. So how do we get at those 2 screws? How per te? Okay guys, if you look in there, there's 2 screws. I have no idea how you get them through this cover. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to tinker with it a little bit so I can get it closer to me. And just be careful, and then I'll let you know how it came off. If I can get it without breaking anything. Okay? I'll be right back. Okay guys, what I figured out, that cavity is separate, just like a DGI battery cover, and you have to gently, I don't know if you can see it in there, this part right here, you have to grab it with a real small screwdriver and try to pop it up, and then it'll release. See what it looks like? Looks like a little saddle. Alright, now that opens this so you can get up in here with a screwdriver, and it changes. Everything is hex except for that, and they're Phillips, and that leads you right into this battery cover right here, right to the battery leads. Alright, so let me try to loosen those up right now. We straighten out the motors. I don't like putting pressure on the wires. Yeah, kind of a weird design, but I guess in manufacturing it makes it a little easier for them. Keeps the cost down. But be careful. You could probably do this before you touch Anything else? Alright, like I said, this is a Phillips, not a hex. So don't try to play with a hex in there forever like I did. Alright, so that now loosens up the power, which in turn should be able to get this out now, or drop everything. Alright, now the issue is, guess where the ESCs are? The ESCs, let's see if I can drop these screws. Oh, there comes the cover. Okay, so I got one screw out for the skids. And I'm missing the other screw to this cover. So that goes through the cover. There's the battery primary cover, I would call it, before the door. And I found the other screw that I just lost for the power leads. There's your power leads, and they do go right to the board. And this one here goes with the cover. And where'd the other one fall? So I'm missing one here. Oh, it's still in the lead. Got a little grass from crash day. Alright, so the battery lead cover has two Phillips screws. Now, what I see is I'm caught on all the ESCs. The ESCs are in the arm. So, I'm going to gently flip this over, try to disconnect these connectors. There's one. Number two. Number three. Number four. Alright. Now, there's the two other wires coming through the shell. Now, like the Phantom, they tell you the body, the top shell can go on in different directions. Wouldn't worry about that with the UpAir. The UpAir, it's got the big battery cover. Okay, so here's the cover with the LEDs. That's the problem with these. When you go to pull it apart, you got to be careful to pull the probes out. And just to show you, I mean, it's got some flex to it. It's not a real cheap plastic. Feels okay, but here's the FPV antenna, kind of stays with the body, so let's put that aside. Okay, now, like I assumed, this was the RX antenna. Here's the RX. Here's your, the only thing I didn't like was the Mickey Mouse wire from their video feed, then they added this other red wire. I think this was, they changed the TX and they had to Mickey Mouse this little cable to make it work, because that was probably the legitimate, you know, power, negative, and video feed. The thing I don't like about the integrated is you don't have audio, which I kind of miss listening to the propellers, because I can tell how the motors sound. Alright, so that's what it looks like so far. Alright, and I'm not really replacing motors. I just want to look at the motherboard. So how far I can go here, it's not plugged in, they're all soldered. All the motors are soldered into the motherboard, so I think I can probably get it a little bit to flip over here. Might have to take off these little brackets here that actually hold the motherboard down. And they seem to be either glued or fastened somehow to the motherboard. And you have these other things. These are just mounts for the top, or bottom, sorry, that you can take off too, but it's not going to help you any. You can't remove the motors unless, you know, the ESCs look like they're going to be fun to put back in. But like I said, manufacturing to save money, that's what they did. I have an UpAir 2 motherboard, version 1.0.02 on this one, and it says the 3. When they say version 1 and they put a 3 on the motherboard, not quite sure what that means. So is this a version 1 of the UpAir and people are saying they already got a version 3? Not sure. Alright, so let's get back to work. I want to put the motors straight again so they're not tugging on the wires. Alright, what I'm going to do is take off these clear mounting brackets. And I think those are all Phillips too. Once you get inside, everything's a Phillips. But hold on a second. The motherboard seems to be moving. So those just rest in there. Oh, okay, I changed my mind. I figured it was glued in, but it's actually just resting on this mount. So that's a nice little trick to get that back in place. There's nothing fastening it when you go to put the bottom back on. So let's move these wires out of the way. What I'm looking for is the infamous board and USB, which everything is, like I said, connected in there. It has, mine does have the copper in there, which I was going to pick up the copper, but it's already in there like a DGI. The motherboard, you're still not going to be able to pull with all the motors attached. So I'm going to have to take off these brackets anyways, see if I can lift it enough to find the USB. So again, let me put the motors in their natural state. Because man, what a challenge to, they must put the motherboard in and solder the motor wires. Only makes sense. So let me take these brackets off, see if I can get the motherboard to lift up a little bit higher so I can see the flight controller. I'm not gonna do any unsoldering to do this. I just want to find the USB, and I figured I'd do a video of the disassembly so people can see at least this far. Maybe one day after a crash I will make a video of unsoldering the motors and going that far, but like they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I'm going to put all these mounts and screws over here. This thing definitely has an order of assembly. It's pretty basic, but they did pretty much stuff everything in one area here. And I'm assuming if the ESCs have any length of wire, you want to make sure that you get them in the right position. Otherwise, you'll have motors set backwards. But what I can see right now, I really don't see any issues moving things around. Alright, there's the board mounts. Kind of a clear Lexan or plastic material with a setting screw in there. That's for the longer skid. I can assume that. Here's your power leads. And let's see now. See what I have to do to find the USB. There's no wires I really can disconnect. If you want to have a look-see in there, I'm looking for, I can disconnect the GPS, I can disconnect telemetry from the gimbal board and the motherboard. There's all your servo leads to the receiver. And there she is, the USB. It's hiding right there. I don't know if you can see it well. See if I can point at it. It's right there on the upper board. Alright. So I'm going to pause a minute. I'm going to look for a USB cable that fits. And I'm going to try to get that USB cable in there. But this is the basic disassembly to get you here. If you wanted to pull this motherboard, you have to unsolder. I would mark each motor lead. They should have connectors on here. If you put bullet connectors in here, it'd be great. You could just pop it apart, right off she goes. Bullet connectors are what everybody else uses. They're just saving money, so they solder direct to the board. But if you do unsolder it, mark your wires. Because if you notice, it's written black, yellow, and red in Chinese. But it looks like this side is in the same direction. Black, red, yellow, red, black, yellow, red. And it reverses on this side, red, yellow, black, red. Oh, actually, black, red, yellow. So that's kind of weird. Black, red, yeah, it's really, really weird. Weird setup. These two are identical, and these two get flipped around. I figured all the yellows were in the middle, but I was wrong. Alright, so I'm going to take a break, look for a USB cord, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, this is Cruiseroy back with the UpAir 2 version 1.0002. Again, I'm wondering, does that say version 3 when you get to version 3? I would like to know. What I'm doing today is I did a disassembly. I'm not going to unsolder the motors to pull the motherboard. I just wanted to get at the USB, to do the USB mod. Now, from what I was hearing, it was a USB 2. If you can see that end, that's standard end, but this end here, but that's not the right one. That's a USB mini. It's actually the same thing that DJI uses for the NASA. I just happen to have a spare one, and what's nice, they're a flat ribbon. They're made for data transfer on any type of flight controller, and it's nice and short. So what I'm going to do is, because of the flat bend, I'm going to try to connect it somewhat like that, and then come out in the battery compartment, just kind of like what you see here. It's gonna be on this side and come out of this big notch right over this area. So that's what I'm going to try for you right now. But I would like it to come out of the battery compartment. So we first have to fish it under the controller next to the GPS pad. Watching out for all the other fun wires. And as I get it into this position, I'm going to do a little fold. Tip the UpAir up here on end, and I'm going to slide it, try to get it into its slot. I don't know what effect this will have over vibration, to have this keep hooked up all the time, but everybody seems to be having luck. Just mind me for a few seconds here. I wonder if I have it in the right. Yep, I've bent it the wrong way. Hold on. So flip, bend this way. The tall part of the USB has to face towards the top of the UpAir. Let's try this again. Like I said, I fished it past the GPS. It shouldn't have any effect over telemetry or anything. It's just plugged in and dangling there. I'm surprised they hide it. But I guess if they set it up with their own firmware, they want it to stay that way. What I want to try to do is get the original firmware files, so we have them on hand just in case somebody deletes something. Alright, so if you can see the way I did it, it's connected to the controller and it's flipping up underneath next to the GPS, and it's going to come out on the other side, and of course the battery compartment is up, so it's going to kind of lay like this towards the battery compartment, and I'm hoping I can either just push it this way and over to get the factory battery in, or it'll be fine the way it is. Alright, so like I said, this is Cruise Roy with the disassembly. I just wanted to get my USB cable in it. If you need to know how to put it back together, then watch my video in reverse, but I don't think it's necessary to do that. And maybe if I get a serious crash, I will unsolder the motors to do a motor video. I think there's one already out there. But I think in the end, which is lucky, right here, is your battery connector right at the end of the bird. You do not even have to open this up to do this mod. I would unsolder these two in a heartbeat and put an XT60, run any battery I want. You just need a battery cover or strap, and that would be the next perfect mod if I get tired of these factory batteries that when you touch them the wrong way you get the light of death. And I could actually use this container and use the plug for the XT adapter, and boom, you got a nice cover. So if you do crash one of these, you can literally cut this off, solder on an XT adapter to this, and then use it to plug right in with the battery. Voila, very simple. Maybe someday I'll do it, maybe someday I won't. This is Cruise Roy with the UpAir One disassembly, and I'm out of here. Okay guys, this is Cruise Roy with the UpAir One, the addendum to the disassembly. I disassembled this just to show everybody how to take it apart. A few things I'd like to say is when it comes to the ESC, you can pop them off the top lid, plug them back in, and then click them back into place on the lower. Unconnect them from the lower. They're just kind of clipped in, and then plug them back in and then clip them back in. It's a little bit easier to assemble this than trying to put those little teeny plugs back in. Now I wanted to show you my USB cable. Turns out that a NASA is the same connector. I'm using a flashlight here, and if you can see on the lower body there's a rib, and the motherboard kind of holds itself in there, and you have to grind that a little bit so the cable makes it past the motherboard, and it doesn't vibrate against the motherboard and doesn't get road rash and peel off eventually after flying so many times. Okay, put the flashlight down. And also people were cutting holes in their drone and everything to put it out. It's good ventilation, but where it is here, I can actually grab it and plug it into the cable. But also if I go to use the factory battery, it slides right in without issue and works just fine. And it just stays there hidden on the side of the drone. Alright, so that's all I wanted to add to the finish of this video. The disassembly of the UpAir One. And this is Cruise Roy, and keep the skid side down, and I'm out of here.